Hello, and welcome to another episode of Around the Verse. I'm Sandy Gardner.
And I'm Josh Herman.
This week's episode...
So this is basically what Inside Star Citizen used to be. It would be the monthly report from one of their studios. They would do a new monthly report every week from one of their studios. So you get one monthly report from each of the 4 studios every month. On top of that, though, they'd always pick like a topic of the week. So it would be sometimes there'd be Squadron 42 episodes. Sometimes there'd be episodes about a specific type of tech. But in general, it would be split by a progress report and then a specific report about something. These Squadron 42 ones actually had a lot of information about Squadron 42 and what they were trying to do with it. And if you look through enough of them, you start to get a really good idea of where they want this game to be. But again, maybe their whole design of the idea didn't change at this time. My idea of what it was supposed to be definitely changed between then and now. And I'll show you why in a bit.
It's close to being done.
Sir, it's turning out.
Hopefully, can put it to rest this shift.
Sir.
I'll let you know either way. I've got to.
There's been a lot of work going into improving the pipeline for getting these scenes into the game via the Subsumption system. For example, August Beck, who's the quartermaster from the Stanton. She now has her activities set up and is in the game. The quartermaster generally takes charge of stocks, distribution, and oversees the work done by the support crew characters who do a similar job. All the AI usables that are in the cargo bay are now going into the game for the AI to interact with. So we will now see her moving around the area much more believably, checking stock and generally chatting to other AI characters. Finally, as part of the mission setup, more of the game's interstitial moments have been worked on using tech developed as part of the vertical slice, meaning more of the ambient life moments are being implemented into the other chapters and locations within the game. So that's it for me this week. I hope you enjoyed the update. Thanks for watching. See you next month.
Thanks, Phil.
Yes, thanks, Phil. Back in December, the vertical slice that premiered right here on ATV gave us a look at a UEE Idris frigate and its substantial crew. The developers have been working on some impressive tech that will help bring that crew to life.
Now let's take a closer look at the AI systems working together with story and player interaction to turn the Idris into a fully immersive experience in this month's feature.
Okay, I was only like a minute off.
Living Idris to me means, as a player, you can walk around the ship.
Living Idris is just Idris Elba, guys. You got to pick a different name.
Everyone else is doing, like, it's this sense that everyone's got their own life, their own sort of routine, their own personalities as well. Like, so, for example, if an AI is walking by a guy who he doesn't like, he might not say hello, but if he walks by the player and he does like the player, he's going to say hi, or he's going to go out of his way to sort of greet him and interact with him. So it's all like this minutia, or this like minor details that make up.
See, that does sound like kind of a lot, if you haven't talked to people, then they don't really greet you that well. But it tracks, I would say, probably with other RPGs. And I think what benefits them a lot with this kind of system is that you are locked into just this ship for the whole game. So it doesn't have to be like a lot of other open world games where you're going to different population centers and they kind of got to reset everything for each time you move. I'm playing Star Wars Outlaws right now. Every planet, you'd have to go and build up your socialness with everybody. But with this, you got the same characters the whole game. And I do think that probably helps them simplify it a bit.
The whole story of what an AI can do.
What the Idris shows is that every NPC has a meaning, has a background story, and you can actually talk with them. They can tell you some, rumors, or each of them has a different personality.
So the goal of the Idris was always to create a ship for people, and we want you to walk around the ship and see these people going about their lives, doing whatever their role is, and generally just doing what it is that they want or have to do. So in doing that, we have every character on the ship has their own name, their own rank, their own role on the ship, and that's spread among all of the different disciplines. So we have lots of bridge crew, engineers, gunners, deck crew, even janitors and medical personnel, and they're all spread out quite well considered, given what
I love the little head movements.
Might be. And then we have to spread that out across different shifts as well.
Man,
so
this freaking frame rate's killing me.
Doing a certain role or in a certain shift on one chapter of the game, but then on the next chapter of the game, they might be off duty and you'll see them in the mess hall talking to people. And everybody is doing their role on the ship regardless of where you are. So you could be at the complete other end of the ship and they'll still be doing their thing. It's not like they despawn as soon as you've turned the corner.
The day-to-day...
It's the, what do they call that? They freaked out about that when they were doing it in like the Bethesda games. I think they called it Radiant AI, where they just keep doing your thing. I do like the idea of the people being like off duty sometimes, but I'm also wondering how many of these stories are going to just get cut short by them killing off characters.
They'll be doing their thing. It's not like they despawn as soon as you've turned the corner.
The day-to-day of a AI on the Idris is essentially governed by this concept of a schedule. So on a Monday, all this means is that on a Monday, someone might be a Marine and going about their business as a Marine might do. So he might go to the shooting range, he might go to the Idris Bridge and stand guard, do all this sort of stuff. Then on a Tuesday, he might be off duty. So all that means is he'll go to the mess hall if he's hungry. He'll go and lay down if he's tired. He might go to the shooting range again if he's feeling like he wants to shoot some stuff. There's also things like arcade machines if he's feeling bored. And it's this idea that everything is kind of governed by what an AI wants to do. So, again, if he's hungry, he's going to go eat. If he's tired, he's going to go lay down. We just give them options and then they go do it.
It's battle. It's the
Our
Sims.
game has this kind of huge opportunity to be a simulation in first place. So you want to feel real. And having a character that stay there forever, it doesn't really feel real.
For example, we might have a Marine who by default is supposed to be on a guard post, and he will go to the guard post, but if somebody else is already on the guard post, he may say, oh, well, I can't do that. So he'll decide he wants to go do some training, either at the shooting range or just simply running around the ship and doing that sort of thing.
We really want that the AI can tell a story to the player. So to achieve this, of course, there is not just one tool that can do it, or one feature, let's say. We try to embed inside the Subsumption tool a lot of different functionalities so that designers can create a behavior that can tell a story. We want to have the systemic behavior to feel real, two characters talking in the mess hall and not just eating. Three guys walking together, or two joggers running around, and while they run, they try to keep their pacing and talk about something. But you also want a mission to tell its own story. So on top of the regular systemic behavior, you might need the story to follow a specific storyboard. If we look at the...
All right, I'm going to take you guys forward a little bit to this scene here, because this is where it starts to shift the idea of what this game was becoming back then, and what it is now. The design seems to be mostly the same, but the scale has just risen so hard. And I do not know if they're going to stick to this idea of how the AI look and work. That's not something they've really focused on when they talk about the game in this new age. The game sort of shifted around this same time, around like 2016, 2017. I think this is when it's coming out. They brought some new folks on, and they basically went and redid Squadron 42 from what I've heard. So it is definitely possible that they're not going to do the same thing with the AI, and that they've simplified the way that this simulation works. But if you look at just the way it all looks compared to the footage today, you can see a big difference.
So you arrive to the pilot room, you start to talk with Old Man, and then there is a moment in which if you don't interact with the game takes control. And it just, you have this really cinematic moment. You can look at the face of the character, you're just not listening from very far. This brings more immersion. And the immersion is kept persistent with the fact that you still are in control if you want to move around, interrupt the cinematic camera, and then you can go close to the prisoner and actually look at them, and they are actually performing all their actions.
I bet they changed this. I mean, I'm sure they wanted to keep it, but I feel like they've tried to go for such a more cinematic experience now that this would kind of break you out of the immersion if you could just walk around the scene.
Then you can go close to the prisoner and actually look at them, and they are actually performing all their actions. The mission, on the other way, can also tell the characters
this just wouldn't make sense in the context, right?
Next. So after you take off from the Idris, you want all men to fly towards the next position for the next mission to do, right?
So the activity setup we've been doing has been really interesting over the last few months. We've done a big refactor of all the guys on the Idris. We've got guys like Marines, engineers, off-duty characters, bridge crew, all the deck crew guys, even janitors. And the way I've been approaching it is I would sort of role play it a little bit. So when I'm setting up, say, an engineer, I would think like, what's an engineer going to do today? Like, what's his job? Is he going to inspect all the ship parts?
If you've been around here long enough, you know what this is. It's Subsumption, yay!
So, see if they're broken. If they are broken, what's he going to do then? Is he going to call up a repair guy, ask him to come and repair it, and then like move on, and all this sort of stuff.
So there's a lot of this, dude.
Stanton, plenty of hot water to go round.
One of the things that we're very aware of
they
is
just
how
spend a lot of time explaining how this ship worked.
It's supposed to be somewhere between 30 and 50, but as we were testing out the Idris and the crew and filling it up, 30 and 50 people just wasn't enough. We were walking the passageways and it just felt too empty. We didn't feel like we were getting that sense of vibrance that we wanted in life. So we added more and more people until it felt right. And now the Idris is at about 81 people, including the player. And to put that into perspective, if you look at the live stream demo, we had 12 people just on the bridge, and that was without the captain or a co-helmsman in there. So you can see how it would quickly fill up everywhere else as well.
From a designer.
All right, it's enough of that. So that's kind of where I was coming from when I was talking about how much they wanted to focus on the social aspect of being on board these ships as you're flying through Squadron 42. And if you look at some of their more recent advertisements for the game, because as I did say, they had a big reset at some point. I don't know when exactly, but it was around that time. And you can see definitely that there is a different scale to the game in terms of graphics fidelity, and I think in terms of the cinematic quality of it. You can still kind of see some of that story focus they wanted, some of that character focus. And they even highlight it in some of these the more cinematic sections here.
So you can imagine my surprise. Detailed lighting passes can be done on hero sequences so we can show our cast and convey their emotions in the best light possible. And we're making sure our cinematics are triggering as fluid as we can craft them so they form a coherent concerto with the rest of the player's narrative experience.
Mr. Wexler, this is Lieutenant Commander Colton.
Oh, Commander, hey. Julian Wexler, I'm the field manager of this little operation. Welcome aboard the Archon. What brings the Navy to this little corner of the universe?
We got you flying with Lieutenant Commander Colton. He's one of our best.
As others will share, this is the most rewarding chapter of development, which allows us to truly experience the visceral and oftentimes emotional moments that our narrative provides.
How did you handle it after Vega?
I'm not sure I handled anything. It helps to remember that stuff like this is supposed to hurt.
I've never been good at dealing with problems I can't fix.
Well, this is one that you don't have to do alone.
That's good to know.
I think it's going to be a fucking movie, dude. So, yeah, you can still see that they're trying to go for all the character interaction and stuff, and I think they're going to depend heavily on the characters for the story. There's a ton of combat and action here, but there's also just like there is so much focus on this idea of like you're in the ship, you're working with other people, it's not just a sort of get out, run missions and do combat. And I do believe I've heard this is how Freelancer was formatted. I didn't get to play it. We probably should at some point here soon.
Enormous universe of people going about their everyday lives.
Let's go ahead and clear for takeoff. Ground crew, prep bay for takeoff.
Copy that.
Hangar, ready for launch. Takeoff approved, Baron 2. You have the ball.
This is so much better than it used to be. It's so much better of a presentation.
Hold on as you're launched off the deck of the carrier.
It feels like a game. I'll show you what this used to look like.
Baron 2, you are cleared for launch. Have a safe flight, Baron 2.
Bro, they're literally like, we're gonna put everybody in space Top Gun. I want to show you what that scene looked like back in the period I was just showing you in the old Squadron 42. Cause it's pretty bad in comparison. And I think this is like the biggest thing when people are like, oh yeah, they've always said Squadron's coming out. Like you can see this. There's either two things they've done here. They've either one, actually gotten better at making the game and it's getting closer to a release and it's, looking pretty good. Or two, they've gotten better at scamming and they know how to make much prettier trailers to trick people, which would then be like, why are your old tricks so bad? So take of it what you will, but this is what this sequence used to look like. You can hail to the cargo station by looking in your comms MFD and clicking on the actual cargo deck line.
Baron 2, hold position.
Systems green.
Now here's a big problem here.
Attention, ready deck crew. Air shields up.
The lighting is so bad you can't even see the person who's trying to tell you what to do.
Baron 1, you're up first.
Copy that.
All right, gentlemen. Fire up.
Square the deck. Let's light it up.
It still has good vibes. Like, I still feel it, Not like it's a bad setup. You could just tell that it clearly wasn't polished or ready for any sort of prime time.
Launch in 3, 2, 1.
It's also like, this is the cinematic part. Now, this is where it takes you out of the immersion. You do all this, cool music and everything, and then watch.
Engines online.
Kind of got to like peer through the darkness to see this guy. You don't know who I'm looking at.
Launching!
Contact.
Baron Actual, Webb wanted to remind you to test out the scanner
So yeah,
before you head out.
the game changed, and I think it's still going for the same vibes. Clearly, like, it's the same kind of stuff, the same scenarios, the same emotional conversations, the same idea that your whole crew is there and acting alongside you, and you've got to like work together with them. I think there's actually a really good spot here where they show off some of the medics and talk about that.
This means we're pulling, repairing, and inspecting, and making sure that your next flight mission is a success. This means we're looking out for pops, hiccups, or awkward transitions, and ensuring that everything flows and looks like all the great mocap performances we've captured.
Let's ready some extra ice packs out of storage. Whenever gunners are on full rotation, you can always count on at least one of them getting hurt.
We also have you covered in everyday life. The medical staff work diligently for their patients, whether they're players or crew.
So they still kind of give this sense like everybody's still working and doing all their stuff. I think they're still trying to ship the same kind of game, but it looks like it's taken a step up, so I think it's got to have a good release. It's no longer like, oh yeah, they can just cruise on by. I think Squadron 42 needs to be good. No pressure. It's only been, you only have to live up to 14 years of hype. You got this.